everybody, welcome to the Smarter Tomorrow podcast, where we talk about the different things that you can do to make your life a little bit easier through technology. Brief recap on the last episode that we did. We talked about the pros and cons of doing DIY installs and the best times to bring in people that are certified integrators, similar to us, to take over those projects if you're outside of your depth, or if you don't feel that it's worth learning how to do the thing that you're trying to do. This episode, we're going to be talking about energy efficiency in the home. And we're also going to be talking about some of the promotions and different things that we're going to be running here in the next few days for Christmas. I'm joined here again with Steven, our COO of the company, and we're going to be talking through some different things that deal with energy efficiency.
I love it. Thanks, Will.
So some of the biggest things that go along with energy efficiency in the home is your heating and cooling costs, as well as lighting, which encompasses a good amount of it. With heating and cooling, especially like my house, I have an old military base house, so it was built very long time ago. Standards were much different then, and it's incredibly drafty. I know that we've talked on a couple different occasions about some of the different things that we offer that can help with that. But the biggest one that always sticks with me is the smart vent covers that we offer, that we can put in, that give more minute is the better word to give there, for the temperature control throughout the house.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're referring to the flare vents, which, fantastic option for renovations. Because, you don't have to completely redo your ductwork, all of that. Yeah, it's just a vent, goes into an existing location, can tie back together. You can even integrate it into the thermostats so that they can work and do things together. Whether you want to do it manually or automate it would be entirely up to you. But they're a fantastic option for helping control that airflow throughout your home. Because, we're not in every room all the time. So why spend so much money heating rooms that we're only spending part of our day in? For example, like our bedrooms, most of the time we're only in there for the nighttime. So we don't really need to be focusing as much on making sure that room is at that comfortable 68, 69, 70 degrees during the day. So if we close those vents, that can help push more of that warm air to the kitchen, the dining room, the living room, the game room, the den, etc., the home office, for those of us that are still lucky to work from home. So we can focus and kind of get that energy, that heat, or in the summer, that AC in the rooms that are most important.
Yeah, those ones, if I remember correctly, they work with either battery or with low voltage wire, right?
Correct. Yeah, there is the hardwire low voltage option, which is a great one, especially if you're building a new, or you are doing a much larger full gut of a room, where you can actually start to run those wires. Absolutely. But the battery option is perfect for those retrofits.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'm going to have to look into, because it's not been a very nice winter so far, and it just started.
Yes. Yeah, it's been rough.
And I know that with a lot of the mainstream kind of energy saving things, switching to LED light bulbs, I know that we go a step further with offering occupation sensors, or I believe your dad was telling us once about changing the maximum brightness of a light from 100 to 75, and some of the benefits there, saying that it doesn't affect a whole lot for the lighting itself, but it does have a significant energy cost reduction. Do you have any more about that?
Yeah, that was a study done by Lutron a few years ago. And don't take the quote exactly. I'm rounding here. But I believe it was, if you reduce your lights by about 25%, you would save about 20% in energy, while only seeing about a 5% reduction in lumens, so the amount of light being created. And that is very difficult to see, especially at that level of brightness. Most users actually don't see a difference in 5 lumens, but that 20% can certainly add up quite a bit. Because I know we started talking with the HVAC. I know HVAC typically makes up a little more than 50% of your energy costs in your home, whereas lighting is typically around 10% or less. So it's still a major part, but it's not quite as big. So adding in some of those different things can still have a good impact on your lighting, electricity needs. I know that if you combine the dimming factor with the occupancy and the motion sensors as well, you can see up to about a 60% reduction in energy usage. Because again, some of that energy is just simply we walked into the bathroom, washed our hands, and then forgot to turn it off. And then someone turns it off an hour and a half later.
Right.
Same with like our pantries, our kitchens. A lot of the time we're passing through these spaces. We want just a little bit more light while we're doing that quick thing. But then so many of us forget to turn it off, or we got our hands dirty and we're covered with whatever we were cooking and we didn't want to touch that light switch. And again, it just gets left on until the next person passes through and remembers.
Sure. That's where some of the automation stuff can come in again as well. I mentioned in the last episode that I have different Alexa routines that shut the lights off throughout the night because I'm up all night, my sister's up all night, so it shuts off the lights throughout the night. Just in case anybody turns a light on and forgets about it. That's something else that you can do as well in lieu of occupancy sensors. Obviously, you get a little bit more control out of an occupancy sensor where it will shut off after somebody's left the room, as opposed to that light's been turned on. You're now on a 15-minute clock to do what you got to do in that room and get out. And I know that Lutron does a lot with the different occupation sensors and whatnot. We've installed them in a handful of different client sites. And they actually also did a case study with the Empire State Building, which was super cool to read. I read that a little bit ago today. They reduced their total energy cost by, I think, like 38% or something like that by adding in the different lighting, limiting the brightness, using that in conjunction with the perimeter offices for the windows. Super cool stuff. And, really cool to see that they can take such a massive building and make it that much more energy efficient.
Right. And that's a massive building that is not going to be a complete retrofit either, or is a retrofit, not a renovation, because you're not going to be tearing apart those beautiful floors, those one-of-a-kind walls. Yeah, that's a full retrofit, and the being able to accomplish that level of energy savings is impressive. Absolutely. Yeah. And it really goes to show how much effort Lutron puts into their products to make sure that they're being energy efficient, whether it is the focus was to save money or to be more environmentally friendly, etc. Like Lutron has gone all in on energy efficiency. Right.
Which is, for the average consumer can really help out as well. Like for me in particular, I don't have a municipality that does the electric. I have a private electric company. So the prices are way, way higher than they should be for, anybody else. Just even my neighbors here in Marquette, they complain about their electric bill being $50. And, I'm sitting over here with a bill that's 6 times that because it's a private energy company and I live in a house that was built 60 years ago that they didn't really care about the build quality of it. They just slapped it together so they could get some military personnel in there.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so many ways to consider that, but like that's one of the reasons to consider that energy efficiency is, when you're spending that kind of money, the cost of installing and putting in some of these new retrofit options, you start to consider like what's the return on your investment there, what's worth doing, what's not, etc., and building out a plan to make that more efficient at home.
Right. Yeah. So I'm absolutely looking into some of the products that we offer for that energy efficiency so I can start cutting that down little by little, make it a little bit more of a palatable number, if you will. Hey everybody, it's William. Are you tired of Magic the Gathering, feeling like it's all about those expensive cards and the crazy strategies? Well, there is a YouTube channel out there that is called Middle Class Magic, and they're here to remind you that it doesn't have to be all that. This YouTube channel celebrates the heart of the game, getting together with some friends after work, building decks with what you have, not necessarily going for those super expensive, over-the-top cards, just enjoying a super casual, super relaxed game of Commander. About the fun of playing, not breaking the bank, or chasing that meta. Check them out today, and remember, keep it cool, keep it casual, and keep it conflicted. On the subject of continuing that energy efficiency, something that not a lot of people think of is your blinds. Because like a lot of people don't think, how are my blinds going to help? They're just little pieces of fabric. Continuing on with that Lutron line, Lutron offers a line of blinds that actually have an R factor similar to the insulation that you put into your walls to help cut down on those heating and cooling costs throughout the year. Stephen, do you happen to have the number of that R factor? If I remember right, it's somewhere around like 7.
I believe that's one of them. It does range between the shades, of course, because there are the honeycomb and then there's the double honeycomb, which of course offers an even higher insulation. And there is a factor for some of the roller shades, but of course, again, it's not nearly as high as the honeycomb style. But window shades have a much better insulation factor than any number that you're going to get off your windows. Unfortunately, like we see a lot of people that want to replace their windows first, and windows actually use a different insulation factor number, which makes it difficult to compare. But again, those window insulations do not compete remotely with a good window shade, whether it is a drape or the honeycomb style, etc. It just doesn't come close. So adding in those window shades will have a much larger impact on your HVAC energy usage than replacing your windows.
Right, because a big thing with that is that like double pane or anything like that helps block out a majority of those drafts, but then you still have a big conductive piece of material that then soaks in that temperature, whether it's hot or cold, and emanates that into the house.
Right. Yep, exactly.
So something to consider as well, because, my wife hates when we open the blinds. Got to make sure that they're always closed. So we might as well capitalize on that and make it a little bit more insulating as well,
Absolutely. Yeah, and of course that does depend on the season as well. So one of the things that we love to do is automating those shades. That's why we really love motorized versus just your standard manual. So for example, in the summer, it can start to get, that sun comes up, it starts to get a little bit warmer. You're trying to keep your house cool, but maybe you're not home. You don't really want the AC running, but you don't want to come home to a warm house. What we would set it up to do is as the sun is going over your house, we would set those different shades to be opening and closing at different times. So as that sun is starting to come through those windows, you start to get that greenhouse effect. It starts to warm up your home. So we want to close those shades so that we don't have this natural warmth coming in and affecting the comfort of your home. And then you do the opposite in the winter, is during the day as that window is, or that sun is shining through that window. While it might be cold outside, you're still going to get that natural warming effect. And we want our house to stay warmer during the day. So rather than having our heater running and keeping the house at that comfortable temperature, it can actually shut off and relax for a little bit as we let the sun just naturally warm up your home. On the other hand, if that part's not as important to you, security is also something we hear quite often. So people want their shades to close at a certain time so that people can't see into their home. And again, we offer options that are more sheer versus full blackout. So again, depending on how much you want there. And again, that's all going to have an impact on that R factor, that insulation.
Right.
So trying to find that balance with each of our customers of what's most important. Are you looking for A, B, C, or some combination of all of the above?
Yeah, and that's honestly one of the biggest questions that we ask any customer that we get is, what's the most important part for you? Whether that's energy efficiency or automation or, anything like that. Just making sure that we get them what they're looking for and in helping them realize their vision. So then some other energy related things that we could talk about, going into like the smart thermostats. I've heard the myth over the last, 15, 20 years of my life, that, adjusting it down when you're gone and then bringing it back up when you're home actually uses more energy. But a big thing that these smart thermostats like to like advertise is that they can do scheduling so that they can do exactly that. Is that something that's helping the customer, or is that something that's hurting them?
Well, that it can go anyway. There's a lot of considerations that have to be had there. And you really need to talk with your heating and cooling professional to find out what is the recommended setup for your system. So for example, in our home, we have a geothermal system. Those are actually meant to be set and forget. You don't want to be adjusting that temperature all the time, because then you're going to lose out on that energy efficiency that you're looking for.
Right.
So our home, we set a thermostat basically twice a year. We set one for the winter, set one for the summer, and those are the only two times we ever adjust our thermostat. So we don't really need anything smart for that aspect. So we care more about making sure that our home and our system is equally heating the home versus that on and off. However, there are systems, especially smaller homes, you may see some beneficial savings from having your thermostat adjust 5 degrees between being home and not home. And there's other systems where that benefit maybe stops once you hit 3 degrees in difference. So I'm not a heating professional, so I can't say for sure a blanket statement there. That's something you want to talk specifically for each system.
Okay.
But what you also want to do is talk to your installer for your heating and cooling system to make sure that it's the right size system, that your ducts are the right size for your home and for what you're looking for. So I know that most heating and cooling specialists, one of the questions they ask you when you're looking at a new system is, what is your preferred temperature? And the more accurate you are in that preferred temperature and sticking to that temperature, the more efficient your system will be. Because they're going to design it very specifically for that.
Yeah, so that like if you're looking for a specific temperature, they don't give you too big of duct or too small of duct to kind of bottleneck that flow, or the opposite. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay.
But so that's something that we talk with you on, but we do require a specific, not even specific, but we do require some knowledge of the system, so that we can all work together to find the right system there. That's not really something that any one person is going to possibly know all of the answers to make sure the right solution is found.
Sure. Yeah, those joint efforts can be super helpful for some things. I know that, the times that we've worked with electricians or contractors to figure out the things that we can't do fully on our own to help out with that can absolutely make things easier.
Yes, which is a callback to episode number 1. Work with your professionals.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Knowing when to step aside.
Yep.
And then as I don't know if it's more of a controversial topic or if it's more of a future forward topic, but solar panels, solar energy. I know we have a couple different solar integrators here in Marquette. I know you guys have a couple down in the Muskegon area as well. We work pretty closely with one down there. Is it really that beneficial to use solar in the home? Especially with the batteries or anything like that to give that excess electricity?
Yeah. Again, this is another one where you want to talk to your solar professional, but there's so many cool systems and ways to integrate things. It really depends on what is your goal, what is the outcome you're looking for. If you are just looking to simply save money, that becomes a much harder number to kind of figure out, like what's the cutoff, what is worth it to you or not. But if you start to add in, do you want to be able to live off the grid for a short bit if your city power goes down? Do you want backup in case something happens? Do you drive electric cars? What are the capabilities there? Do you want to be more energy efficient for the environment? Are you specifically trying to reduce your carbon footprint? So all of those considerations can have a dramatic impact on that formula of, is solar worth it? Because your location, the the area around your house, all of that can have a big impact. So I know in Marquette, we have a lot of houses kind of in the rural Marquette that those trees are 20, 30 feet away from the house. You don't have sunlight all day, like reaching your home. So solar only has a benefit for a few hours a day. So your return on that investment is much lower. Whereas we have solar on our house, we have a pretty big opening. So we have solar on the roof, and we see a good amount of the day. Any day it's sunny, we're seeing some sort of energy coming in, which is fantastic. And I mean, we're not home most days, being small business people, being a family that likes to be on the go. Like,
sure,
even on the weekends, like we're not home a ton during daylight hours. So we're usually making enough solar energy to keep our house running on its own. We don't need consumers' energy during the day because we've got our fridges running, the hot water heater, etc. But like, it's a couple small things, and we've turned off most of the rest and automated the home so that we do reduce as much energy as possible, so we can rely as much on solar as we can. But there's a system through Savant, which is one of our vendors, where we can actually start to tie in circuit breakers, individual things, and start to turn things on and off with your solar. So maybe if you're producing X amount of energy through your solar panels, maybe you want to dedicate some of that to be selling back to the grid, or maybe you want to dedicate part of it to on-site batteries so that you have a backup system in case the power goes down. And then you can take that and say, well, you do lose power for a while. You can start to set it and be like, okay, my refrigerators need to stay running. I don't need my washer and dryer. So we can just have that Savant circuit turn off. And now all of a sudden your washer and dryer can't be used. So you're not going to use your reserve energy for that. You can start to do the same thing. So again, I know that with consumers' energy, we have a specific rate plan that gives us cheaper energy at night for charging electric vehicles. And then we have a set amount that we pay for different parts of the day. So we have peak times, non-peak times, off-peak times. It's a lot to look at. But like, we've decided, like, hey, energy is most expensive between, I think it's 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. Let's not run the washer and dryer during those times. So like, we just have a sign up that says that. Yeah. I mean, it is the majority of the day, but it's not on the weekends.
Oh, okay.
So the weekends we get it's like the same rate we pay between like 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. But so right now we just have a piece of paper that's like, hey, let's try not to use the washer and dryer between these times. But if we decided to put in that Savant system, which is what we're looking at doing, we could actually set that breaker to say, let's shut off those so that no one can use it at all during that time.
Right. Remove the paper and have it be, more of a hard line. You can't do it anyway.
So we can just completely prevent it. So we could automate things to start to do that. And again, you can apply that to your whole home. So maybe during that peak time where you're paying the most amount of money, let's not have certain things in the house running and taking energy, and then have them turn back on once that peak time is off. So like, I know, again, for my vehicle, I'm not supposed to charge it during that time frame that we're paying more. There's an agreement that we have, but there's not anything specifically that stops it. But again, I don't want to be paying more money to charge my vehicle either, because then it starts to get into what's cheaper, the gas or the electric, when I'm paying the highest rate.
Right.
So again, having it shut off, like, I can't even mess that up. Like, I can't accidentally start charging my vehicle during the high cost hours. So that again can also start to add up for savings, for energy savings, for energy efficiency, etc. Sure. But again, it's going to come down to what's the right option for the client. So the solar company we work with here in Muskegon, Agathon Solar, they also sell Savant. So we don't sell any of the stuff that they would sell when we're working with clients together. We let them handle all of the voltage, all of the electrical side of things. And then we come in and we can help program some of the automation, and we'll sell any like low voltage automation hardware that's required. And we'll work through that. But if you are working with an electrician that doesn't do Savant, but that's what you're looking for, we can absolutely sell the hardware, but we'll have the electrician go through and do the installation. We can answer questions and assist with what we can, but they are going to handle that aspect.
Right. And then we would just take care of all the programming for, switches or anything like that after the fact. Yep. So something that we're going to be working on here for the beginning of December is going to be called the 12 Days of Techmas. Effectively, what that is going to be is 12 days from the beginning of December up till Christmas, or up toward Christmas rather, highlighting 12 different products of things that we either really want to use or really do enjoy using or are going to be super beneficial to the customer. So we're highlighting stuff like the Sonos Arc, which we use here in our Marquette office for our audio setup. Kind of shows like what a living room could look like. We're highlighting Josh AI, which is going to be one of the digital assistants that we work with, which can help with automating the home and making everything a little bit more energy efficient throughout the year. So another one that we're highlighting is the ecobee thermostat, which goes along with the scheduling that we talked about before. It is a smart thermostat that can help you with setting times for the temperature to go down when you're not home, bring the temperature back up when you are home, drop it way down when you're on vacation, anything like that. And I'll start talking about the GE lighting that we offer as well. It comes in both, tunable white as well as color. There is a new version of the GE bulb as well. It's a dynamic bulb, so it can have up to 4 colors in the same bulb, which is super cool. Got to test that out for our downtown day out last month. Along with that, the Lutron Caseta starter kit helps with light switches and outlets and all the different things that are going to help with keeping the home a little bit more energy efficient. Same with the Lutron motorized shades that we talked about earlier. Those are going to be highlighted in our 12 Days of Techmas as well. So there's going to be some different deals, some different highlights for those products. So head on over to ecosmarthomepros.com or any of our socials, which should be linked around the podcast somewhere, hinting toward the producer. For you guys to be able to take a look at any of those products. All right, and that about wraps us up for episode 2. We're going to go over some of the key takeaways for the episode, and do our little closeout here. So some of the biggest things, we're wanting to make sure that everybody has more information, more knowledge on how to be more energy efficient in the home or in the business. We talked about adding in those smart outlets, smart light bulbs, cutting down your energy costs with your heating and cooling as well. Whether that's scheduling through your thermostat or getting the cool floor vent covers that I'm definitely going to be getting here in the next few months. And then really just knowing when to talk to the appropriate professionals for the different things that you're trying to do. You're not going to go talk to your HVAC guy about making your lights more efficient. You're going to go talk to an electrician about doing something like that. And when we're going to bring in those low voltage integrators, similar to us, when you're doing anything with those heating and coolings, or when you're trying to program those HVAC floor vent covers or your thermostat or anything like that. And we also do encourage everybody that listens or hears about the podcast or hears about us to, consider those things either for the environment, for yourself, for all of the above. Especially with spring right around the corner. A lot of home renovations start around the spring, so we're trying to help you guys keep that in mind for the future. I just want to say thank you to Steven again for joining us on episode 2. We'll be coming back to you guys here in the near future with episode 3, and we're going to give Steven a little bit of a break because we're going to be bringing in the other co-host, Mike. He'll be back from vacation here by the time we get down to episode 3. So thank you again, Steven.
Thank you, Will.